Welcome to Under Heaven, where women come together for honest conversations and spiritual growth. Here we embrace laughter amidst life's ups and downs, finding joy in the journey. Through faith and friendship, we learn and grow together, strengthening our spirits. In times of difficulty, we will be here offering support and understanding. Feel encouraged and let's draw closer to God together. Here's our host, Trish, ready to guide us on this enlightening path.
Hello, welcome to Under Heaven Podcast. I'm your host, Trish, and I am so glad that you're here today. I hope that you've been blessed by what you've been listening to. We are here to just glorify God, to build each other up as women of God, and to go forward and spread the good news that we are loved and we have a purpose. I talked previously a little bit about Romans 12:1, where it says to offer our bodies as a living sacrifice. And today I want to talk a little bit about what that's like. I shared that when I was a new Christian, this was a verse that God had put into my spirit, that I was a living sacrifice for Him. And before we start, I want to read to you from Romans. I'm actually going to go back to Romans 11 because just to get a little background of what he's talking about in 12:1. Romans 11:33 says, "Oh, the depth of the riches, both of the wisdom and the knowledge of God. How unsearchable are his judgments and his ways past finding." And on down to 36, it says, "For of him and through him and to him are all things, to whom be glory forever. Amen." Okay, let me go over to 12:1. Sorry, we'll get there. How's your day going? Have you found something today to rejoice over? There's always something. We opened our eyes, we got out of bed, took a breath. Even the little things are important. Sometimes the little things are more important, aren't they? In fact, I think we have the verse that says, the little foxes spoil the vine. It's those little foxes, those little things that can be very important. Okay, verse 1 of chapter 12 of Romans says, and this is Paul speaking to the people, "I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God." Oh, God has a plan for each of us. We've talked about that. God has a purpose for each of us. He knows us before we're even knit in our mother's womb. Before we're conceived, God knows us and has a plan for us. Well, I'm going to just talk about a little bit about how walking with God and being that sacrifice, that sacrificial life for Him, means to trust Him, even when we're in unfamiliar places, unfamiliar circumstances, even when we're intimidated. We live our life as a sacrifice unto Christ. I started out, when I first became a Christian, I started out just going to church weekly and learning about God. Then I joined a Bible study so I could learn a little more. And there were small steps I took throughout my beginning years of knowing Christ to lead up to where we are today. And one of the things that I did as a step of obedience unto Christ was I opened my home to a Bible study. It wasn't my Bible study. It was another lady at a church I didn't even go to. And she wanted to have a Bible study, but she wasn't able to have it at her home. So she, asked if I would have it at my house. And I'm like, sure, you can come to my house. People can come to my house. I think that was the beginning of a gift that God gave me for hospitality. I loved having people in my home. You maybe don't, maybe you do, so you understand. But I did open my doors. And it was, my daughter she was just a few months old. We put her on a blanket in the middle of the floor of the living room and we had our Bible study. And as I was listening and growing in this Bible study, I realized I needed more in a Sunday service. I needed more in the body of Christ for which I was attached to. And so I started visiting this other lady's church, and I realized that they spoke the truth of the word with boldness and didn't back down or bend at all. So I decided that's where I wanted to be, because I knew Jesus never backpedaled what he said. What he said was the truth, and he stuck to it. And if I'm going to be a sacrifice, a living sacrifice unto God, I need to be in that unbendable truth as well. So I began going to her church, and I ended up being there until we moved out of state over a decade later. And it's those small things that lead to bigger things. As I open my home to Bible study, I can kind of see the progression that God used, had me walk in. First I opened my home to that Bible study. Then I joined a church that spoke the word in truth. And then I opened my home again where I led the Bible study. And my Bible study was just for women, because my heart was so wanting women to know that they have a purpose, and wanting women to step up and be all that God had called them to be. So as I had this group from church, they called them cell groups or home groups. As I had this group, I began to get acquainted with some of the pastors. We were in a huge congregation, over 3,000 people, and there were several pastors over different parts of what was needed in the body. And I began working, volunteering with the newcomers pastor, because I had such a heart for people, and women especially. I had determined that every Sunday morning I would meet at least 3 new people, learn their names, and become a contact for them. In that, I discovered how much I loved being with people. And of course, I already knew I loved hosting people in my home. And then that turned into a volunteer position where I was able to develop a part of the ministry for newcomers, where I kept in contact with people. I would call if someone wasn't able to be in church. If I didn't see him in church, I'd give them a call during that next week and see if everything was okay, see if they needed prayer for anything. I also then was also able to go visit people in their homes and greet them, welcome them to the church, tell them, what things were available to them in that. So that little step of volunteering at church led to beginning to work in the ministry as a volunteer. And as that continued on, a door opened for me to be secretary for this pastor. Well, my career, my education was in teaching, psychology, and so I'm like, sure, I'll be glad to be a part of this class. They began a newcomers class and a cell group class. So I'm like, sure, I will help out any way I can. So what I did at that point was take the pastor's sermon on Sunday. I will put it into a lesson form with questions and bullet points. And then I would type that up, make copies and give it to the cell group leaders at their meeting Wednesday evening before church. That opened another door to me. As I was doing that, I became a paid part of the church. And it was just so wonderful just to do work for God. I was busy having, children and everything, and my calendar was packed full. And I said one day to God, God, I want my calendar to be packed full for you. And at this point, when I was hired by the church, my calendar was beginning to get packed full with God. And I was able to visit people in the hospitals and in their homes and continue to have a group in my home. I had a group in my home for 12 years of just women and seeing them become a living sacrifice for God. So I eventually became a lay pastor, and I was so blessed to work alongside many well-known ministers that would come to visit. Our church was an international church, so we did have people from around the world, and it was so amazing to see God working in the lives of all these people. And I just wanted to, I need to cut this short. There's just so much to say, but I wanted to let you know that we cannot allow fear to hold us back. We need to go forward in faith and know that God will open that door. Next time I'm going to have to tell you about the time I was a part of the youth ministry for a whole week. And it was absolutely amazing, and it was life transforming. So I want to encourage you to know that as you pray, as you read the Word, as you learn and fellowship with other Christians, your ministry, your call, that ministry may not be in church, may not be in the pulpit, but what God has created you to do begins to just open. The doors just begin to open, and you begin to flower. So what area in your life is keeping you today from being a living sacrifice? Is there one? Ask God. If there's anything holding you back, I have to do that. Even after 40 years of ministry, I still sit in reflection before God for Him to show me my heart, to show where I may be trying to do things on my own instead of letting Him do them. Well, I hope you enjoyed today. This time just goes so quickly. Be sure to click like and subscribe, and I hope you'll share this with someone else. I will be back again. Oh gosh, I have so many stories I want to tell you. I have so many guests that want to share their stories with you, because you know what happens with these stories? It encourages us. It encourages the teller and the hearer. And Jesus told a lot of stories, and I'm here to present some of those stories from people just like you and me. Thank you again, and remember, we're going to speak life, we're going to choose hope, and we're going to know that we are loved by God under heaven. Have a great day.
Thank you for tuning in to the Under Heaven podcast, where every episode brings you closer to the heart of faith. Remember to hit like and subscribe and join our growing community, inspired by divine love. Your comments mean the world to us, fostering a vibrant dialogue rooted in spirituality and connection. By sharing our podcast, you play a vital role in spreading the love of God to others in your life. We're grateful for your support and can't wait to continue this journey with you in our upcoming episodes. Together, let's embrace the hope and light that each moment with God brings into our lives.